Hello, welcome to another episode of Ask Minister Yo. So today we're going to start part one of a communication series entitled Toxic Communication Styles. So for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be discussing one of these toxic styles, one a day. So today, let's start with criticism. That's a very common one. So basically, criticism is when you attack your partner's character or their personality, and you want to see a change in their behavior. It's toxic because you can't attack someone's personality or character and then expect to have a good outcome. And this, more often than not, is something that was picked up in childhood, either something we heard or something we saw done or something that was done to us repetitively, and then we picked up this bad habit and now we're using it. And if you find yourself being critical, if people tell you, "You so critical, you always criticizing me, you always putting me down," it may be true. You may be functioning in this toxic communication style called criticism. Let me give you an example. Criticism is complaining. Let's say my spouse left clothes or shoes in the floor or somewhere I feel like they shouldn't be. Now, I want his behavior to change, and I want to get across to him that the behavior that he is currently showing me is not working for me. So there are two ways that I can communicate to my spouse or my significant other or my child, for that case, that their behavior is not acceptable. I can talk to them in love, or I can use criticism. Let me give you an example of criticism. Criticism is, "You so lazy. Every time I come in here, your stuff all over the floor. I can't believe I told you over and over and over again, pick up your stuff. You don't have a maid. I am not your maid. Pick up behind your, oh my God. Did you grow up in a barn? Who raised you? What kind of house does your mama keep?" Criticism. Negative, criticism. And what that's going to do is the opposite of what you want. So instead of that person hearing that what they're doing is bothering you, what they're going to do is become defensive. So now they're ready to attack and jump back on you. Another way you can respond to the same situation is in love. So what you could say was, "Honey, little Willie, can you pick up your shoes and put them over there for me? Is it possible that when you come home, can you take off your shoes by the door? Or can you take your shoes upstairs and put them in your closet for me, please?" Now, you can all see that was much sweeter than the other way that I said it. My purpose for having this conversation is to have a change in behavior. So if that's your goal, the old people used to say it like this, that you get more bees with honey. The sweeter you are as you communicate and the clearer you are, the more likely you are to get a response that you want. But if you fall into this, I'm going to be critical, I'm going to put them down, and if I keep putting them down and make them feel bad about themselves, then they'll change. See, that's our old way of thinking. That's how them old folks was raised, and that's how they raised our parents. And maybe that was how you was raised. But when we know better, we do better. And words of affirmation can go a long way into smoothing things over, especially if your spouse is a male. Men love positive words. Negative words seem to have the opposite effect. So if you find yourself in a situation where your significant other, if it's your husband, if his behavior is opposite of what you would like it to be, like shoes everywhere, clothes everywhere, muddy footprints, whatever it is, try to remember before you respond, take a couple of deep breaths and think about, now, how would I want him to say it to me? How would I want my husband to say it to me if the roles were reversed? Think of it like this. Sometimes we give more honor and respect, ladies, to the pastor than we do our husbands. Sometimes we talk to our husband in ways that we wouldn't dare talk to the pastor like that. We wouldn't put the pastor down and raise our voice and call him out of his name ever. But your husband needs more respect than your pastor does. And so if you can find it in your heart to honor your man of God, then you need to find it in your heart to honor the man who is the head of your house. Now, that is not in my notes, but that's for somebody. That's for somebody. Somebody pulling on me. That's for somebody. You need to honor your husband, because sometimes the poor behavior traits may have been learned in childhood, but it can be broken if you respond to that man in love and not in anger or disrespect. And criticism comes across to our husbands as disrespect. Now, husbands, criticism comes across to your wife like you don't care. And neither one of you want to feel that way. So I challenge you, instead of attacking your spouse's personality or character, use I statements instead of you statements. Say, I feel that, yada, yada, yada. Or, when you do this, it makes me feel like, yada, yada, yada. Instead of you always, you never. Because that's going to make the person defensive. And when your communication is defensive, then it's going to lead to an argument. But if you say, I feel like, but this, when you do this, it makes me feel like. I would love it if you would. Would you consider doing those type statements, starting off with that tone of voice and in that manner will still get you the response that you're looking for. You're looking for a change in behavior. But it's how we say it sometimes, ladies. It's how we say it sometimes, men, that we sometimes shoot ourselves in our foot. Because we're trying to get across to the other person how their behavior is making us feel, but we're coming at them wrong. And that makes it toxic. So, just a quick recap. Criticism is when you attack your spouse's personality or your spouse's character in an attempt to get them to change a behavior. It's toxic because that is not the way it's done. Instead, use I statements. I would appreciate it if. I would love it if you would. Or this behavior makes me feel like, instead. And if you change how you say what you say, talk about the behavior and how it makes you feel, and let's talk about the person's personality and character, you'll find yourself getting more of the responses and change in behavior over time that you're looking for. I hope that helped you. That was my best shot. Next time we'll discuss the second style of communication, which is contempt. If you would love to hear more, jump over to my YouTube channel at Coach Yolanda B. Click subscribe and like. And if it's been a blessing to you, share it. And until next time, go in God.